Hello, welcome to Visitors from Dreams. I guess you'd call this the gaming wrap-up for 2015, and it was one hell of a year, wasn't it? Personally, this was one of the best years for gaming in my life. I mean, look at it, we had Fallout 4 just recently come out. Incredible, aside from some bugs. We had Metal Gear Solid 5 come out and redefine the open world game genre. We had Undertale show just what an indie little game could do and how much it could change the landscape. We had Battlefront arrive and yeah, all the nerds jizzing their pants over the fact that Star Wars is back in full force. Yeah, it was a really good year for games this year. Thing is, I didn't play a single game released in 2015. But somehow, this was still one of the best gaming years of my life. So, I thought I'd just go over 10 games that I played this year. These are just in alphabetical order aside from the last one, which is there because it was the one that left the biggest impact on me. I just wanted to talk about a few games that I played this year and the way I approach gaming currently. I'm what you call a patient gamer. I buy games cheap years after they come out, basically. I save a lot of money that way. That way the games are fully patched when I pick them up and they run properly. It's a very different mindset. I used to buy games day one. I used to pre-order all the time, and the way the industry is at the moment in terms of DLC and pre-order bonuses and all that sort of stuff, it doesn't interest me in the slightest. And don't even get me started on games that need patching day one because they don't work properly. So it's getting easier and easier for me to work in this particular way where I play games years, like a year or several years after they come out sometimes. I constantly get asked, do I feel like I'm missing out? And the truth is, I don't. In fact, I'm the happiest I've been gaming in years. So I thought I'd just go through some of the games I played through this year. Like I said, these were the 10 that left the biggest impact on me. I played around 25 to 30 games this year, and these are the 10 that really stood out to me the most. There were some other ones that I enjoyed as well, but these are definitely the ones that left the biggest impact on me. Alright, so first up we have Battlefield Bad Company 2. This was released in 2010, developed by DICE and published by EA. I didn't play the multiplayer of this at all, actually. I don't know if the multiplayer servers are still up or not. I kind of just picked this up because I enjoyed the first one a bit, the single-player campaign, and I couldn't believe how much better the campaign was in this one. It really took that kind of destructible environments and mixed that with a linear level design that I had an absolute blast playing through this game, I'm not going to lie. The writing of the characters is, the lead characters anyway, is better than any other military shooter I've ever played that I can think of. And while I don't remember anything about the story in particular, I just remember, because I played this quite a bit earlier in the year, I do remember enjoying the solid combat and the level design. I thought was really clever and interesting and really played with the destructibility, and not a over-the-top show-offy kind of way, but more in a well-integrated, intelligent sort of way than the first one. And yeah, I only paid a couple of bucks for it, and I had an absolute blast playing through this. In fact, I played through it in 2 days. Like, that's how addictive I found it. And I'm not really one for shooters, despite how many show up on this list. But yeah, if you see Battlefield Bad Company 2, if you played the first one and didn't really dig it, but I would recommend giving this one a go. It's actually really, really good. And I wish I had more to say about it, but I kind of don't. Just, it's a lot of fun. And that's just the single player, mind you. I didn't even touch the multiplayer, so yeah, hey. Next up, going back to 2005, this is Condemned Criminal Origins for the Xbox 360. This was a game that I had been wanting to play for years and years and years. I never saw a copy in the wild. I never bothered to get one off eBay back when I was living in Australia. And I was lucky enough to stumble on one when I was here. So this was released in 2005. It was developed by Monolith Software and published by Sega and I believe Warner Brothers together collectively. What is there to say about this game? It was a really creepy experience. I had played the second one a bit, but I'd never, like I said, never played the first one. The gameplay in this one's a lot more streamlined. I wouldn't call it a first-person shooter. It's more of a first-person melee game for those who are unfamiliar with it. It's a simple matter of combat revolves around either blocking or attacking, basically. So it's a very, very, very simple mechanic, but something about the environments and just the atmosphere of this game is absolutely unbelievable, and the sound design is just incredible. So even though the visuals have aged quite a bit, this is definitely one of the most unsettling and uncomfortable games I've played through in quite a few years, and I was really happy to finally play through it. So it's another game that I can really recommend, and especially now that these horror games are really popular. I mean, this really came out long before Five Nights at Freddy's, or before the real jump scare sort of game sort of really took over the YouTube sort of place. There was this thing floating on its own, doing its own thing, and it's certainly not built around jump scares, although there's one fantastic one in there. If you play through the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's yeah, there's not really a whole lot like this. I can't remember if the second one was any good. I hear not so good things about it, so I'll probably play through that next year. But yeah, Condemned Criminal Origins, going back to it after all these years, 10 years old, really, really good, fun, unnerving experience. Next up we have Demon Souls. Now those of you who follow me over on the Tatl gaming channel know that I was doing a Let's Play this with my buddy Paul. I recently finished this on a separate playthrough. It took multiple attempts for me to get into this game, probably 4 or 5 different attempts at trying to break into it, because I've been interested in the Souls games for a long time, but I wanted to go back to where they started. So of course, being a Souls game, this was developed by From Software. It was published by Atlas over here, I think. In Japan it was published by Sony. The reason Dark Souls was actually multi-plat was because Sony refused to publish this in the West, so that's a little interesting tidbit for you. But yeah, it took me a long time to really break my way into this game, but once I did, this was one of the most rewarding gaming experiences I've had in, well, I keep saying experience in years, and maybe that's why this was such a good year for gaming for me. This is one of the most rewarding gaming experiences, like, literally, I've had in years. I haven't played Dark Souls or Dark Souls 2 yet, but the level design in this is just phenomenal. The combat was fantastic. The audio design, just everything about Demon Souls kind of speaks to me in this funny way. I'm really surprised it took me as long to get into it as I did. But it was kind of a matter of once I wrapped my brain around how it worked, it just changed everything. And you know, I can't wait to play Dark Souls next year, having played through this now. And man, what is there even to say about Demon Souls? This was easily one of the top 3 experiences I had this year. And it's still very fresh in my mind, and I can't wait to play through it again. Really, really good. Mechanics-wise, I guess it's an action RPG. It's notorious for being really, really hard. I didn't really find that. I actually found the game pretty easy. Maybe I managed to over-level myself somehow. Either way, there was only a few boss fights that I found particularly challenging. But yeah, for those who are unfamiliar, it's a combat system very heavily based around reading enemy movements, basically, and knowing when to counter. When you want to attack, you're committed to that attack. There's no real cancelling, so it's very much a very committal game. It's not so much a super fast action RPG. It is something where you really need to plan and think while you're playing. So it's very different to a lot of other action RPGs out there. But if you're looking for a fair challenge, because it isn't an unfair game, it's very, very fair in the way it's designed, definitely pick up Demon Souls. And I really hope they re-release this actually for the PS4. It's one of those games where I'd really like to see it you know, like remastered for another generation, just because it does have a few technical issues that are holding it back a little bit. And you know, much like Dark Souls 2 at 60 frames, I think that would improve this game quite a bit. But whether or not it happens, we'll find out. But yeah, Demon Souls, good stuff. And speaking of action RPGs, this is probably my second favorite game that I played through this year. This is Dragon's Dogma, also for the PlayStation 3. This was developed by Capcom and obviously published by Capcom. Like I said, it's another action RPG, but it's got much more of an open world sort of feel to it, so I don't want to compare it to like an Elder Scrolls, but it's very much like a huge environment. Combat-wise, how would you even describe it? The guy who directed the combat in it was the same guy that directed Beautiful Joe, and I believe it was the second and maybe it was just the third Devil May Cry, I think. Either way, super fluid combat. But what's unusual about it is it brings those heavy RPG mechanics, so I could run around with 2 blades and a shield, or I could mix and match weapons and items, and just really, really in-depth in terms of RPG, but I've never played an RPG with combat that comes even remotely close to being as good as this. I mean, the closest I've probably played in terms of an action RPG would be Kingdoms of Amalur, and I quite enjoyed that, but it was nowhere near as polished as this. The game does have its issues. The story in it is really, really weak. The frame rate can hitch sometimes, And there are these characters called, your party member that comes with you, they are called pawns. They're basically AI characters which are trained by going onto other people's servers and playing into their game and playing with them, which is like a really interesting concept. They talk a lot, which can be a little annoying, but I mean, like, really, there's a lot of people who never gave this game a chance. It reviewed kind of well, but didn't necessarily sell super well. But the minute I picked it up, like, I knew this was the game for me sort of thing. Like, I connected with it instantly, and I am really, really, really excited to play through this game again. Maybe even make some kind of like commentary video on it at some point, possibly, because I think there's a lot here to talk about in terms of level design. The animation on the enemies is just phenomenal. Animation in general in this game is insanely good. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the Monster Hunter team worked on it in that respect. But yeah, if you see this game around, there's also the Dark Arisen version, which I haven't played, that has an expansion built into it. If you see it around, I usually see it around for like $10-15, and it is a hard game. Like, I think it's harder than Demon's Souls, actually. But if you like a good, challenging action game, and you enjoy RPGs, this is that perfect marriage, and I cannot recommend it enough. Like, I really can't recommend this game enough to the right person. Now on to something a little bit different, Far Cry, the Wild, the Wild Expedition. I love Far Cry 3, and on this I finally got to play Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. For those who don't know, Blood Dragon was like a standalone expansion for Far Cry 3, basically a whole new game made with the engine and assets, and they just reskinned it a bit to make it look like an 80s action movie. You know, I think everyone knows what Far Cry is. It's just open world first person shooting, but the 80s aesthetic in Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, there's a big 80s sort of revival going on at the moment, and I find a lot of it's very like, it's too on the nose with its references and things like that. Like, even something like Kung Fury, I think, worked better as a trailer than it did as a short film, despite all the work that went into it. Blood Dragon dances that line beautifully, where it references things, but not in like a ha-ha wink kind of way, but in a kind of like just embracing it and making it part of its universe kind of way. And while it's never distracting in terms of the way it uses references. The music in this game is phenomenal, by the way. Yeah, I had it's only 5 or 6 hours long, but I had an absolute blast with Blood Dragon, and the last level in Blood Dragon was one of the most, like, single most fun, over-the-top, insane levels in any game ever. And if you're a fan of things like Rocky 4 in particular, and a few things like that, like, it's just like it's just like just playing through nostalgia for something that didn't exist. It's hard to put into words without spoiling it, but Blood Dragon is well worth playing through if you haven't already. Next up, we have one of the more recent games on the list. The last year I played through Metro 2033 Redux, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. But I didn't touch Last Light Redux until this year, so I sat through that this year, and much like 2033, it was one of the most immersive games I've played in a long time. Once again, it's a pretty hard game, mainly because I'm not very good at hunting for things. I make life hard for myself playing these games. But if you want to play something that feels like a first-person shooter that feels different to everything else out in the market, I mean, like, it's set in Russia. It's post-apocalyptic, but not in a typical sort of way where everything's a sand-blasted desert. It's all set under the railroads. The environmental design and the sound design in this game is just absolutely first-rate, and, like, especially if you play it in Russian, actually, you can set it so that everyone speaks Russian and you're just reading subtitles. It makes it even more immersive and more unsettling in a way, just because it's not a language, unless you're from Russia, that you're really surrounded with. I've got the books as well, and it stays pretty close to them while adapting them into a way that makes sense for games. But this collection, I think it's on PS4 and Xbox One as well. If you see it around, it's pretty cheap now, and both these games are absolutely brilliant. And I can't recommend them enough. If you're a fan of first-person shooters, or just a fan of, like, interesting sort of game settings, you don't get a lot of settings like what you find in Metro. It's got its horror aspects, it's got its action aspects, it's got some stealth aspects. It's just a really neat package all around. And yeah, I had a great time. Some frustrating moments, but I worked through them, and they weren't enough to detract me from enjoying the game overall. So, also I managed to get a quad-barreled shotgun, which is just fucking awesome. So yeah, Metro Last Light Redux on this particular set here, well worth checking out. Now I'm going to hold something in the air, because it doesn't exist, because it was a digital download. I downloaded the original Paper Mario on my Wii U Virtual Console. Now, kind of cheating by putting this on the list a little bit, because I did play it when it originally came out. But I only ever got to play it as a rental, and I only ever got, like, a short distance into the game. I never got a great deal of length into the game as a whole. And once it was released on Virtual Console, I finally got to sit down and appreciate the game in its entirety. And what can I say? It's just a really fun written game. I think visually it holds up better than any other game on the Nintendo 64 does. Probably because of its 2D assets, and even the 3D assets are super stylized. I have played through Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door several times. It's one of my favorite games of all time, one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. So it's weird actually going back to the original and playing through it properly, something I'd never actually done before. And yeah, it's just really funny and just really fun. And there's not really a whole lot more I can say about it, other than if you like RPGs and you like funny things, and, you know, let's be fair, if you've got a Wii U and the Virtual Console, you probably already have it, so if you've got it there and haven't played through it yet, and never experienced it before, now's a great time. Go and play it right now. And speaking of Mario, I played through Super Mario Galaxy 2 for the first time this year. I played through Super Mario Galaxy when it came out, and again last year. And I played through Super Mario 3D World last year, but I'd never played Mario Galaxy 2. And this year I finally did it. And, you know, it's funny to talk about this game, because really it's just more of the same, but Galaxy was just such a great game that more of the same is fine. I mean, like, I know this game added in Yoshi, you know, who's a fun addition to the game. I don't think he's necessarily like a massive addition, but he is fun. But there's just some great level design in this game. It's just some really, really, really fun stuff. The music's fantastic. As always, Nintendo's animation is just absolutely first rate. It's just pure fun on a disc, really, and I don't know why I put off playing it for so long, but I'm really, really glad that I finally did. And yeah, this was some like just the most pure fun I had this year. Not gonna lie. Alright, so this is the second last game, and in terms of alphabetical, this is the bottom right here, and it's also the last shooter for this year. I played through Wolfenstein: The New Order, which is actually the most recent game that I played through this year. And no, I didn't grow up playing Wolfenstein. This is actually my first real Wolfenstein gaming experience. But holy shit, this game is just, it's all kinds of awesome. That's just it. It's just, I enjoy first-person shooters, but I'm not particularly good at them. And this game challenged me because I suck at shooters, but it also has like a lot of old schoolness. Like there's some arena-style shooting areas to it, which I really appreciated. No tacked on multiplayer, just straight up single player, which is what I'm all about. I don't play any shooters online. I used to play Halo 3 online, and that's about the end. And Gears of War, and that's about it. I haven't played online in years. So to get a game of this size dedicated to a single player campaign with shooting this good was just, you know, you get dual automatic shotguns. What more do you need to say? Obviously shooting Nazis is always a good time, but Wolfenstein, I just found it to be the story was really solid. The characters are really well written. The script was super tight. The shooting was great. The visuals, even though it's based on an id Tech 5, it still looked and ran great. It just subverted all my expectations. Like, I knew it was going to be a good time. Everyone told me this game was great. I didn't realize how great it was actually going to be, so, you know, perhaps to Machine Head for reviving Wolfenstein and making it awesome. And again, it's props to Bethesda for letting them do that. So lastly, what was my game of the year? What game did I left more of an impression on me than these games here in this pile? What was this? A little game called Nier. I picked this up for $5 without any idea what it was. I had no idea, and I didn't do any research before I played it. I just grabbed it, took it home and played it out of curiosity. What I found was some of the most inexplicably appealing game design that I think I've ever experienced, and this game really, really, really left it like a mark on me. It's kind of inspired me in a lot of ways, and it's affecting the game design that I'm doing now for both Shooting the Catfish and for Flatwoods. Nier had the most interesting story that I experienced this year, and it had the best characters that I experienced and got to meet this year. So, even though the gameplay in Nier, which is an action RPG once again, the combat isn't fantastic. The visuals are really, really underwhelming, despite having a really nice aesthetic and art direction being really, really strong. The actual power of the visuals is really, really low. The colors are washed out, but between its incredible soundtrack, which, if it isn't the best soundtrack of gaming soundtrack of all time, then it's probably at the very least the best gaming soundtrack of the last generation. and just the incredible writing and stories and voice acting and performance. Nier will forever hold a special place in my heart as the game that I picked up because it had Square written on it and I didn't know what it was, and completely redefined everything about video games for me. So this was released in 2010. It's a very, very hit or miss game for a lot of people. Everyone seems to either really, really love it or think it's overrated. Personally, it spoke to me in ways that I didn't even know games were capable of. It did things to me that I didn't know games could do to me in terms of like changing my mood or the way I felt, and subverting expectations in incredibly intelligent ways. I had an absolute ball with Nier, and this is like a 30-hour game, and I finished it in 4 days. And once again, it's a game I've been eagerly awaiting to go back and replay again. And that's after already replaying it once this year. So now I know that I've spoken this game up heaps. If you play this game, you're going to be really, really disappointed with it. It's on the PS3 and the 360, but if you're interested, if game design interests you, because this game has like a very, very mixed game design aspects. It has its shmup aspects, action RPG aspects, top-down Diablo-esque aspects, open world aspects, and it's all kind of like just chucked in there together in a way that doesn't really make any sense, and it doesn't work, and somehow through not working, it kind of works perfectly. It's just, I don't understand how anything in this works, and that fascinates me, and I find it incredibly engaging. Like, I could literally talk about this game all day, and if there's one game I want to do a video on next year, like if I was just to do one, it would probably be on this. I would love to do a commentary of the entire game. Not a let's play, but like a commentary video, you know, a few hours long. I would love to do that, because I just have so much to talk about, and I find so much interesting about this game. Yeah, so this here, Nier, this little 2010 game for the Xbox 360 and PS3. This ugly, janky game is my game of the year for 2015, and this was the best game experience I had this year. And that brings this little video to a close. I know this was something different. I hope you guys don't mind it. Let me know in the comments below, and let me know if there's any of these games that you've played that you either feel the same or completely disagree with. And if you like this sort of video and would like to see me do more of this sort of stuff, then please also let me know about that, because I like experimenting, and to me at this point that's what YouTube's all about. So thanks again for sticking through this video. I hope some of you found it interesting and engaging, and I hope some of you actually go back and dig through your old used game section, or your little thrift stores looking for some of these gems. But until next time, I hope you have a fantastic day, and hopefully I'll see you then. So peace out and have a good one.
Come on, more energy. More energy. Come on, more energy. More energy.